Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Hey, those of you online, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I heard all of you say good morning in response, and I'm so thankful for you. Those of you in this room, I got to tell you something very truthful and raw and honest right before we get started. This morning, I opened up Time Hop to watch. I love watching like what happened a year ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, to watch how my kids have grown up. Except that when I looked at it this morning, 1 year ago, I was sitting on a beach in Ludington, and I thought, what am I doing here today? What am I doing? I don't even know what I'm doing with my life, except being on a beach is my second favorite place to be. Right here is my favorite. So you guys, welcome. Glad you guys are here. That's right. I pick you over a beach, and that says a lot. That says a lot. As a kid, I always loved sitting on the beach. I like to sit right on the edge where I can stay dry except my toes feel the waves coming up. Like I like to sit right there on that edge and feel the waves come in. And I remember sitting on the beach in Ludington last year at this time, watching my kids try to drown each other and thinking how wonderful life is, except for that part. But you feel the wave come in, and I was watching the waves as it came in and watching the kids build these castles that got destroyed every other wave and try again and destroy and try again and destroy. And it's kind of fun to watch as a parent just go, you'll figure it out someday, kid. But they won't. But I watched, and I always think it's fascinating when the waves come in and you see the wave go away and it leaves that impact for where it was. Like you can see exactly where the wave came in. And as it gets shallower and shallower, you just kind of see the ripples in the sand from where the waves were. You know what I'm talking about? And then this boat comes just storming by, and all the kids are like, woo, a boat. And this huge wave comes from the boat, right? And everything gets washed out. And it's like, well, okay. Well, it was so peaceful up until that moment, although it doesn't sound bad to be on the boat making that sort of a wave either. That sounds pretty awesome. But here we are today in a warehouse in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, or online. Maybe you're at the beach. If you are, thanks for taking me with you. But those types of waves are among my favorite types of waves. My other favorite type of wave is when you're in a sports stadium and you do this thing. You know what I'm talking about? Like if I started over here and we went, come on, come on. Oh, some of you have not been to a sports game in years, and it shows. Let's try this again. Okay, you ready? Here we go. And woo! Yeah, and those of you who didn't do it here, don't do it at the stadium either, and you are party poopers, is what you are. Because that's the best thing ever when that happens. We're almost to football season. We can cheer on the Chippewas, we can cheer on the Lions for some reason, and we can cheer on your favorite team as long as it's not the Packers. Hey, I don't want to hear the heckling, okay? This is my moment. I have the mic. No, I love that. In this entire series, we have been looking at the book of Esther. And Esther is a fascinating book. It's got ups and downs. It's a wild adventure of a story. And we have two main characters, Esther and Mordecai, who the whole time in this whole story have been making waves. This is what they do. They keep making waves. Everywhere they go, they impact their surroundings. Everything starts changing. Everywhere they go, they keep making waves. And it reads out just like a made-for-TV movie. There's action, there's romance, there's adventure. Let me give you this series in a recap up to now, just pretending like you weren't here every week, because I know all of you have been here every week of this series so far. But just in case, I'll say it again from the beginning. Here it goes. Previously on Don't Miss Your Moment. This is what happens. King Xerxes is in control over Persia. King Xerxes gets really mad at his wife, and he eliminates her from the picture. He doesn't kill her off, but he says, you can't be queen anymore. And Queen Esther arises. Esther becomes the new queen. Esther is a nobody from nowhere who just rises to the occasion because the king likes her, and so she becomes the new queen. Now, Mordecai was her adopted father, basically. He helped raise her. That's who he is in this story. He's a man of faith. He's a man who loves his Jewish heritage, although he doesn't really talk about it much at all. He won't even acknowledge it until the bad guy enters the scene. Bad guy's name is Haman, and Haman is like a bad dude. He's a bad, bad, bad dude. And Haman wants to kill all Jews. He wants to get rid of all of them because Mordecai won't bow to him. That's the only reason. That is the one thing he has against these Jews. And his heritage says Jews are pretty bad. But the Jews are God's chosen people. But what we see in this story is that the Jews are now being pretty much told you are going to die. Because Haman says, I want to kill all the Jews. The king says, okay, whatever you want, Haman. And so Haman allows this to happen. He decrees it to happen in the king's name. And now all of the Jews are destined for death. Because Mordecai wouldn't bow to him. He said, I will bow to no one other than my God. Haman doesn't like that. Haman then sets up a large pole in his yard to impale Mordecai on. It's pretty extreme. A little bit dramatic, yes. But that's who Haman is. He is like to the nth degree. If he's not bowing, we're putting him on a pole. And we're going to show everyone that this isn't going to work. So he goes to the king and he's going to tell the king, this is my plan. You are going to put this man on a pole. But while he goes to the king can't sleep. And the king has his record of his reign read to him, and he realizes Mordecai has saved his life, and he never did anything to honor him. So he says, hey, Haman, what should we do for the guy who we really want to honor? Haman's a complete narcissist, and he's like, well, do all these things for me. But the king says, those are great ideas, but instead do them for Mordecai. Wait a second. Haman's upset. Haman has to parade Mordecai around town, telling everyone how wonderful he is, how Mordecai has saved the king's life, how Mordecai is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And all of a sudden, the tables have turned, and we have this story where it's like, wait, what? What happened? Because up to this point, all the Jews are destined for death. But we need God to show up. We need his help. We need an intervention. We need something to happen. We need the tables to turn. And they haven't yet. But until this moment, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And in this moment, the tables flip. And Esther has said, King, I want you to come to a banquet, and I will tell you all of the things I want. And the king's like, that's awesome. Please make me a banquet. Because the king loves his wine. Loves his wine. And so he's like, yeah, let's have a banquet. I will eat. I will drink. Everything will be great. He goes to the banquet. The queen says, here's what I want from you. Come to a second banquet. And if I were at a banquet and somebody told me, here's what I want from you, come to another one of these. Sign me up. Like, let's do that. Let's do that. And so he comes now. We are at the point in Esther 7 where he is at the second banquet. Haman is so mad. Haman went home angry because he had to parade Mordecai around town. He sets up this pole. He's ready to go, except now he's the one being humiliated. And in his anger, he almost misses the second banquet. Somebody comes to get him, brings him to the banquet. They're now at the banquet. They're eating, they're drinking. The king is happy. That's the king's number one thing in life is to keep drinking. And that's what he does really, really well. That's like the one thing he does really well in this whole story. Consistently well, in fact. And so they're there, they're feasting, and the queen says, okay, king, this is really what I want. And this is where the moments start to get really, really good. Okay, track with me. Esther 7, verses 3 through 6. Then Queen Esther answered. She was answering the question, what do you want? And she says, if I've found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. And King Xerxes, in total disbelief, turns to Queen Esther and says, who is he? Who is the man who has dared to do such a thing? And Esther says, an adversary and an enemy, and the only other person at the banquet. She turns and she looks at. I can see the dramatic finger pointing. I can see the lights turning low. I can hear the Law and Order dun-dun moment come in. And she says, this man, this vile Haman. And Haman was terrified before the king and the queen. And Esther, the Persian queen, has finally revealed herself to be Esther the Jew. And the king's like, wait a second. There's somebody plotting to kill my queen. We got to do something about this. In fact, he gets so mad and so enraged that he actually sets his drink down and walks out in the courtyard. That says a lot right there. That's how mad this dude is. He goes out in the courtyard to try to cool off, to try to collect his composure, to try to decide what to do, come back into the king's palace, right where the banquet is, and you see Haman in the most beautiful form, please, queen, please, 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 please spare my life, please spare my life. And in fact, he just sprawls himself over the queen, begging for mercy. And this is so ironic because the whole reason Haman hated the Jews was because a Jew would not bow to him. And now here he is on his knees, bowing and groveling and begging the queen to spare his life. Woo! Tables have turned. And this is where we are. Like, this is a telenovela right here. Like, this is soap opera 101. And she's just, oh my goodness, please save my life. And the king comes up with the greatest plan that he could ever think of because somebody says, hey, there's a giant pole outside of Haman's house. Maybe you should put him on it. And the king has never said no to an idea yet, and he still doesn't. And he goes, you know what? That is a great idea. And again, Haman devised his own downfall. And we end up with the world's worst proctology appointment, and Haman ends up on a pole. And if that's not a visual that will last with you forever, I'm not going to give you a different one, okay? This is bad. This is bad. This is Haman now on a pole. He has been destroyed in the way that he plotted to kill a Jew because God always wins. Always. And so here in this story, a Haman kebab is out on display. He is gone, and we're in Esther 8. The king took off his signet ring, which he had reclaimed from Haman, and he presented it to Mordecai. And Esther appointed him over Haman's estate. Now, if you remember, Haman was over everything. Everything. The king gave him unlimited power, short of being king. Now, Mordecai, God's man, is over everything. And it's like this moment to celebrate. It's this moment to go, yes, victory. The bad guy is gone. The good guy has risen and is now in control until you step back and realize, oh, wait a second. There's still a decree that all the Jews are about to be murdered. Whoops. We got to do something about that. And so we have Esther and we have Mordecai who go, wait, what can we do about this? And this is fascinating about Persian culture, because in Persian culture, when a king issues a decree, there is no going back, even if the king changes his mind. The king cannot undo a decree. He can't. It's fascinating. Probably a really bad leadership structure. Don't recommend that for your organizations. Do not recommend. 0 stars. And here is the king going, well, somebody's trying to kill you, but there's still this law out that says that you're going to be killed. And so he comes up with this workaround where I can't undo this decree, but you know what I can do? I can issue a second decree. And so Esther and Mordecai get in their little brainstorming meeting. They're writing on the whiteboard, coming up with ideas. What are we going to do? They have Chick-fil-A catered in while they brainstorm. And while they're there eating their Chick-fil-A, they come up with the greatest plan ever. They say, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to write a new decree that says on the exact day that Haman said all of the Jews would be destroyed, we're going to give them permission to fight back to the death, to fight back. And so they issue this decree. The king says, sure, go for it. And they put the, because again, he says that to every idea that comes out. And they put a signet ring on it. They send it out. All the couriers go all around town, all across Persia. And now we have this new plan that they can fight back. And what fascinates me about this in this story is I look at this story and I see so much of our culture. I see so much of ourselves in the story of, okay, well, sometimes it feels like God is absent. We don't see his name. We don't hear him speak. Like, what's going on? Our lives, there's a messy world all around us. There's messy people all around us. There's a lot of parallels in our lifetime of what this story represents. And now we have a king who desperately needs a second chance. If you ever said something, put something out there, and realized, oh, can't take that one back. Shouldn't have done that. Ever have anything where you've wanted to go back and redo a moment because you messed it up so badly? No, but just me? Me and 2 others. Okay, good. The rest of you are liars, and that is not acceptable. But this is what happens. And so the king has issued this decree. He needs even the king needs a second chance. Here's what's beautiful about this story. We are all saved by second chances, not just the Jews in this story. Yes, they are about to be saved by a second chance, but that's exactly what we all need. We all need second chances. And if you're being honest with yourself, sometimes a third and a fourth and a fifth. And the beauty of God's mercies is that they're made new daily. Daily. We are all saved by second chances. In this moment, in this story, the Jews are saved by a second chance. We have this value. Matt talked about some of our values. There's a value on the wall as you go out that says growing people change. Growing people change is a story of second chances. That's a story of us realizing, oh, buddy, I've messed up, or I need help, or both. And God comes in and he restores and he gives new life and he gives us an opportunity to grow and to become new, to be made new. In fact, that's the phrase we use with our baptism services, which we're going to have one in just over a month, outdoors across the street at the park. Baptism and barbecue. And in week 1, we announced it last week, 6 people have already signed up, and I couldn't be more excited about that. It's so good. And if you're here in this room or you're online and you're realizing, I need a second chance, I'm one of those people. I need a fresh start. I need God to save my life. I need to be made new. You can sign up too. Stop by the Next Steps table. Let us know online. We'll get you signed up. We'll talk you through everything about that. But it's a beautiful moment, a symbolic moment of being buried in death and raised to new life in Christ, being made new, being offered a second chance, new life, new hope. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I cannot wait for our first baptism service in our new building too. Like, that's going to be so much fun. I in fact had the greatest idea ever in first service of just digging a big hole in the middle of the building and filling it with water and then adding a bubbler and heat, and we will call it a baptistry tank, but during the week it will also be called a hot tub. And it's just one of the greatest ideas I've ever had. And so I think Chris already put it on the list. You can expect it in the future. It's going to be a good thing. It's going to be good. Chris gave me 2 thumbs up. It's already on the list. It's got to happen now. King's orders, can't go back. You see what I did there? That was good. That was a tie-in. Okay, never mind. Here's what happened, though. Here is the second chance that has been offered. I want you to see the extreme difference that has happened in just 4 chapters of this book. An extreme difference from people who are about to be destroyed for being God's people to people who now have new life. Look at this, Esther 4 versus Esther 8. Esther 4, in every province to which the edict and order of the king came, there was great mourning among the Jews with fasting, weeping, and wailing. That's pretty bad. 4 chapters later, Esther 8:17. In every province and every city to which the edict of the king came, this is the new one that says they can defend themselves, there was joy and gladness among the Jews with feasting and celebrating. What a great turnaround. So many times if you read the story, you'll be asking the question, where is God? What's he doing? I don't see his name. I don't see him speaking. I don't see his direction. But if you actually look, you can see his direction happening all over the place. He is changing the course of the story. He is rewriting the story. And if you're in a place where you are in Esther 4 and your life is at the bottom of the barrel and you're trying to figure out, how do I survive to a new day? Just remember, Esther 8's right around the corner. It may be just a few days away. It may be a few months away, but it's coming. God is a master at rewriting stories. God is a master of second chances. We talked about this last week, if you were here. This literary structure that this whole book is based on is called a chiastic structure. It's in the shape of an X, where everything is going to the demise of the Jews. Everything is pointing to the fact that they went from being nobody to about to be nobody. Like they were no longer going to be around nobody. Everything is pointing that way until this one moment last week where we see a dramatic turn and God shows up and starts rewriting the story. And now, in the beauty of the second half of this book, it explodes in rapid fire. We start to see every one of those bad moments being rewritten with something beautiful. Take a look. The splendor of the king is established in 2 banquets at the beginning. Esther becomes the queen and Mordecai saves the king. Haman, the bad guy, gets exalted into power. Haman decrees annihilation of the Jews. Mordecai and Esther plan to reverse the decree but don't know how yet. Esther has a banquet and Haman plans Mordecai's execution. And then last week, Haman was humiliated and Mordecai was exalted. He was lifted up. This is the story of last week. Now look at what happened in just 2 chapters. Esther holds her second banquet, and instead of Haman planning Mordecai's execution, Haman gets executed. Mordecai and Esther, instead of just needing to come up with a plan, actually have a plan. And it starts to happen, it starts to unfold. And instead of Haman decreeing that all the Jews are going to die, we have Mordecai issuing a new decree that all the Jews get to live, and they get to defend themselves. And in fact, will, spoiler alert, defeat the enemies. I feel like that's a safe spoiler, okay? I feel like that's good. And instead of Haman now being in power over everything, Mordecai is now in power over everything. If you want to know how the last two unfold, tune in next week. Come on back, because we're going to talk about it, and we're going to finish this book, and it's going to be awesome. But it's this idea. Esther and Mordecai, the whole time, they keep making waves. They keep doing one thing at a time, where little by little, they start to act. And we start seeing ripples. I don't know if you are a child at heart like I am, because let's be real, I am. When you throw a rock in, not only does it make a great noise, wait for it, bloop, great noise. You have this initial ripple that comes out, and then you start to see a couple others follow. You know what I'm talking about? If you don't, just look behind me. Bloop, and ripple, and ripple. This is what Esther and Mordecai keep doing. Slowly and steadily, one act of following God's lead, and you start to see ripple effects all around them. You start to see that. Now, what's beautiful about waves is when a ripple starts, it can pretty quickly dissipate, but when the wind gets behind it, it keeps going, and that ripple turns into a wave. And when you take one step and ask God to work with you as you do what he's called you to, that wind comes with you. And that little ripple turns into a wave, and that wave turns into a huge impact. I think about little things that have made huge impacts in my life. I think about today, my son Liam takes off for Crohn's camp, which he's excited about. He has never met somebody his age who deals with Crohn's, and he has felt alone for the last couple of years while he's been battling it. And today he gets to go to camp with a bunch of kids who are doing the same thing, right? That's not even the good part yet. That's good. I mean, this is exciting for him. I'm really excited for him. But the great part is I missed one of his infusions where he goes to Ann Arbor. He gets treatments to help him. And Stephanie was there. And while they were there, there was this girl in the little station next to him who turned around and she's like, "Hey, I'm an artist. Can I just draw your picture?" And she was also getting an infusion. She was a patient there. And so she turns around, and for the next 20 minutes, she's just looking at Liam and sketching and looking and sketching and looking and sketching. And she hands him this picture, which is a really cool drawing. I'll post this later so you can see it. A really cool drawing of Liam. It looks just like him. It's really well done. And his face lit up. He was excited. He got to see somebody who was willing to pay attention to him, lock eyes with him for a while, draw his picture, give him a gift, and he left with that. And that's now framed and sits right next to his bed, turned toward him, where he can see it every night when he goes to bed. Now, not only did that impact him and bring him joy, but do you know what happens when he comes home with joy? I feel it. And when I feel that joy, I go to work with that joy. And when I go to work with that joy, the people I work with feel that joy. And when the people I work with feel that joy, they spread it. You understand, this is a ripple that keeps spreading and keeps spreading because one person chose to do something to brighten somebody else's day. One thing. I look at Esther and Mordecai and I think, well, they did a whole series of things. But it started with one, became another. And look at what happens. Look again at 8:17, the very end of chapter 8. In every province and in every city to which the edict of the king came, there was joy and gladness among the Jews with feasting and celebrating. And many people of other nationalities became Jews because fear of the Jews had seized them. They saw God's hand and they went, I want in. I want part of that. And not only did it impact, they were just in Susa. They were in the capital city of Persia. It did not just impact the capital city where they were. It spread, and it spread, and it spread until it hit every province and every city and all of the territory because they did one thing that created a wave. And it spread, and it spread. And that's the impact we have. That's the ability we have to rise to the occasion and say, my faith matters enough to me that I'm actually going to do something with it. And if the gospel matters to you and you know that Jesus has changed your life and you're not doing something with it, you are missing the chance to keep making waves. You are missing the chance that's right in front of you to change the world around you. I look at this and I go, well, okay, it's easy for Esther and Mordecai. They are in positions of power. They have risen to influence, but the reality is they have influenced the entire story, even before they were in positions of power. Everyone has influence. Everyone. So my question is, what are you doing with yours? What are you doing with the influence that you have in your workplace, in your homes, in your community, in this state, in this nation, around the world? What are you doing to impact with the gospel because it matters to you and you want to be a part of God's movement and you want to see his church grow and you want to see his kingdom grow and you want to be closer to him and look more like him? And if that matters to you, it's worth making waves. It's worth standing up. It's worth doing something. So the challenge is to keep making waves. Keep making waves. God, this whole time, has been working through nobodies, ordinary, regular people who are broken and messed up in a broken and messed up world to change the course of history, to change the story. That's what he does through us. That's what he does. That's our challenge. Let me pray. God, this morning, as we remember what you have done through human history, as you teach us through this story, as we remember what you've done by giving us life and hope through the person of Jesus, God, I pray that you would fill us with strength to take the next step forward and to start making waves all around us by living out our faith, by influencing the surroundings, by impacting our families and our communities and this world because you love us so much. God, I pray for those in this room, those watching online who just need to take a step toward you for the first time. God, would you meet them where they're at and would you impact their life and help them to impact the lives around them? Those who have taken steps forward, God, keep showing us the next step and the next step and the next step. And God, I pray that we never stop making waves. God, would you grow us in our influence? Would you grow us in our love for you? And God, we thank you for the second chance you've given us. We ask your blessing in Jesus' name. Amen.